Although it's big, it's almost an obscene amount of money that it almost doesn't seem justifiable. What's up, YouTube? Episode number 2 coming at ya. My name's Logan, and we're gonna talk about the top 5 things to consider when choosing a dental school. Let's get it. Destroy the like button. Destroy it. Destroy the like button. Hit that subscribe, clink the bell, make sure you have notifications turned on, and catch me twice a week with regular content. Coming at ya, Tom Haverford. I'm in the pharmacy/nursing building right now. There's a lot more rooms to study in. It's more of a horizontal building. The dental building is actually like vertical, and so there's just more space over here. So I like to come over here and I like to study. They got whiteboards, they have TVs you can plug your computer into. There's a lot of really cool amenities that I really enjoy about the school. So one day I will give you a tour of all of this and what it's like to be a dental student. So today we're gonna talk about 5 things that you should consider before choosing the dental school. The first thing, and probably the most obvious thing that you want to consider before choosing a dental school, is the price of the dental school, okay? Obviously, you have in-state schools, you have private schools, and the prices between those types of schools vary drastically, right? To maybe $30,000, $40,000 for the entire program if it's an in-state school. That's very cheap tuition. To $400,000 for a private school. And that's kind of where I'm sitting at. It's a pretty massive amount of money to consider when choosing a school, right? And so a lot of people say, hey, just pick the school that's the cheapest. I got into only a couple of schools and the price differences between them really weren't that much of a difference. They were all pretty similar in price. And so for me, that wasn't really a big factor that I could really consider, but I did have friends who got into some in-state schools, some out-of-state schools, scholarships. When you're looking at dental schools, price is a pretty big deal. Now, some people already have jobs lined up for them after dental school. Maybe your parents or a relative is a retiring dentist and you know the type of money that they're gonna make, and the cost for you isn't that huge of a deal. That's not my case. I am the first professional in my family to go to graduate school. There's no one that I plan on working with afterwards. I'm kind of just hoping that it all works out. The price for me, yes, although it's big, it's almost an obscene amount of money that it almost doesn't seem justifiable. But I do have confidence that I'm going to be able to pay back the loans that I'm taking out. And so it's pretty crazy. But it's definitely something that you should consider. The opportunities to be able to make a living and pay back that debt are out there. Also, things to consider around that are, how much is the living, right? Is it an expensive place to live? Is the housing going to be expensive? Is gas expensive? Are you going to have to travel from wherever you're living and pay gas to get to school every single day? Maybe there's local transit or something that you can use, and is that an option for you? Will that help you save money? These are all factors that you want to take into consideration when you're looking at schools, right? Another big thing as well is, what kind of things are there to do around your school, and is that going to cost you money? Are the things that you like to do expensive? Right? There's a big group of us being here in Utah that like to go to the mountain and to go skiing and snowboarding. I'm one of those guys. This was kind of the first year I was able to get a pass and go snowboarding, and it's been a great stress reliever for me through the rigors of school. And so that's definitely something that you want to consider when looking at schools, what kind of costs you're going to incur just from being there, aside from the tuition and fees that the school is going to charge you. And so that's probably the number one thing to consider, is how much is your school going to cost at the end of the day. Number 2 is location. Okay, there are a lot of dental schools, and mostly talking about those in the United States. There are some obviously all over the country, and a lot of people from Canada come down into the United States to go to dental school, and likewise I have plenty of friends that went up to Canada to go to dental school. A couple that went out to Mexico as well, and Puerto Rico. I'm directing a lot of these towards the States, and you're going to be bouncing around from state to state doing interviews or checking out the campuses, and you're gonna make a decision on where you should go. And so the number 2 consideration that a lot of people should look at is how far away the school is going to be, right? You have a lot of friends and family where you've grown up or where you're going to school. Now maybe that's not your case. Maybe you went to an out-of-state school and you moved away from home when you went to college, but you probably made friends in school. You probably like those friends. Maybe you like where you're living, and you don't even want to move a second time out of that state that you went to school at. But for a lot of people, they like to be around family. They like that support system and the security that they have being near them. And so that's something that you definitely want to consider. Like for me, one of the main huge reasons I wanted to stay in Utah after I graduated was because I actually had family already here. And I've got a family. I have 2 kids, they're really young, my wife, and so having that support nearby if something were to happen was just really reassuring for me when deciding what school I should go to. Knowing that if something were to come up or I had to rely on someone, that my mom is, like a couple roads away and she can come over in an emergency and she can watch the kids while I go out and take care of something is a really huge deal. Aside from maybe emergencies or things that might just come up and you need someone to be there, me and my wife also need to have time together, right? We need to be able to get away from the kids every once in a while and have some fun. And so being able to have a support system that can help me while I'm in school was a really big decision, a really big point when making the decision to come here. I want to have a life. I know that school is really important and I've worked really hard to get here and it's not going to be easy. That doesn't mean that I can't have a life on top of that, right? I still want to be able to go out on the weekends, maybe see a movie, go to a restaurant or something, maybe go snowboarding on the mountains with some friends or whatever. And I need to be able to have that support system here at this school. Another big thing when it comes to location is the weather. Right? A lot of people in my class came from California where they never lived with snow, and here we are in the middle of winter and they're driving around for the first time in their Mercedes. Though they've never really experienced what snow's like, driving around in snow, and if that's not your bag, well, you should definitely consider that. Utah's probably about as cold as I want to get. I don't have any desire to move off to Michigan and live in that bitter cold snow. That it just doesn't appeal to me. And I'm from California originally. I love the sun, I love the beach, and it's definitely a place that I like to go back and visit to. And so weather-wise, it's definitely a factor when deciding, hey, is that the location that I want to be at? The other thing as well when it comes to location are the type of activities that you're able to do. A lot of schools are obviously going to be in bigger cities because they need to have the population and the appeal to get students into the program there and to have a good time. And so think about the type of activities you can do. And when I'm in Southern California, there's not really a whole lot of skiing that I can do, but I can go ahead and go surfing, right? But here in Utah, surfing is just not an option. They have an indoor surf pool somewhere or something like that. I've never tried it, but I do like to go snowboarding, and so that's kind of the trade-off. In the summers, I can go to the lakes and I can go wakeboarding and that sort of thing, and in the wintertime, I can hit the mountain and I can go snowboarding. So the types of activities that you can do and what you're actually into should definitely be a consideration, because when it comes to the difficulties of your didactic classes in dental school, you really want to make sure you have an outlet for that stress. You can't just sit there and study all day long, week after week, because you're gonna get burnt out, and you need to be able to have an outlet. For a lot of people though, maybe those activities don't matter. Maybe they like to do things indoors. I love playing board games, I love playing video games, and I like to play music. And so those are all things that I can do whether I'm indoors or outdoors. But I do know that the weather and how the clouds are and whether the sun's in or out or whatever does affect my mood. And when it's a sunny, beautiful day, I'm a happier guy, and it makes the stresses on my life feel a little less burdensome. And so those are definitely some things to consider when you're looking at the number 2 thing, which is the location of the school that you want to go to. Reason number 3, culture. Okay, now this is something that a lot of people might overlook, but it's something that schools actually try really hard to develop and maintain throughout their life, right? The school itself, because deans, professors, colleagues, students themselves, they have kind of a vision of what they want their classmates to behave. The culture wrapped around the school is a really big deal to admissions. And so if you don't really fit the mold or you don't fit their culture, they don't think that you thrive in their environment, they're just not gonna pick you. That's just the nature of the beast, because even me as a future business owner, if I'm picking and choosing employees, I want to make sure that I'm working with someone that I can get along with, that I know is going to work hard, and that they can pick up the slack when it's needed, right? If an emergency happens, I need to know that I can trust this person and they can take care of it. And that's the exact same thing in school. And a lot of the schools have different cultures. So my school, for example, is very team oriented, like very team oriented. We call each other lifelong colleagues and we treat each other as peers. Even all of the doctors that I work with, they really treat me as another doctor. And they say, well, hey, what do you think? And then they tell me whether they agree or not. I'm not always right, but they want me to put forth my best effort so that they can side and agree with me and they can kind of see where my mentality is going when doing diagnosis. And so it's something that's really a big deal to the admissions is that, hey, is this person going to fit the kind of lifestyle and fit the kind of mold that we're trying to create here at our university? Our school is non-competitive. It is a pass-fail type of system. You have to get a 90% in the class and there's no rankings. And so I don't know if I'm top of my class, I don't know if I'm at the bottom of my class, but to the school, that doesn't really matter because what does matter is that you can work into a team, you can learn from each other because not one person's gonna have the answer to everything. Now, other schools are complete opposite type of model. They have hard class rankings, they display them publicly so that all the students can know who's doing the best, and then they use those rankings to help get into different specialties or programs that maybe that they're searching after. Is that going to hinder my application process when trying to make matches for residencies? And a lot of people have the type of personality where they want to be competitive, they want to be motivated by the next person behind them, pushing them to be a better person, right? If they're getting better grades, I need to get better grades. If they're getting this question right, I need to get this question right. Depending on who you are and the type of culture that you want to be susceptible to, that's going to factor whether you should choose that school or not. The culture here is to make sure that you are set up for success. And that's something that I didn't really get the same level of attention to at other schools. And I've already had two pretty big life events happen since starting back in 2019. And the school has been very accommodating for me. When I had my second child, they're like, hey, take as much time as you need. That doesn't mean that you don't have to do the classes or do the work, but we're willing to work with you and to make sure that you do get the same level of education. But we understand that this is a pretty big event in your life and you're probably not going to be able to dedicate as much time to school now as you did right before the baby was born. They're super accommodating for that, no questions asked. They were just like, wow, that happened? Okay, no, we totally understand. Let's make sure that you have the resources and the materials you need to succeed and just talk to us in a week. Culture is probably the number 3 thing that I would say, hey, take into consideration the type of people you're going to be with, the type of people you're going to work with, and how they see the environment that they're currently in. Are they the type of people that seem like they exude a lot of knowledge and they got that because of the studying and rigors that they got at their school and that's who you aspire to be? Or are they people that have really good clinical skills and you can just tell that any sort of situation that appears into them, they know how to handle it and they get that through the experience that they find in the clinic? Or is it someone who happens to be on the forefront of technology and innovation and through the research at their school and their programs, they were able to come up with new ideas or new methods of doing things, and that's something that really intrigues you. I think the culture is built around those big ideas of, hey, are we going to focus on people? Are we going to focus on the future? Or are we going to focus on information and knowledge, right? Those 3 things kind of help build a culture and the kind of students that the school wants in there to fit into that mold. Culture is a pretty big thing that a lot of people gloss over. They think, all schools are kind of the same. I'm going to be learning the same stuff, doing the same stuff, but they're pretty different. Taking into consideration when you're looking at schools, the type of culture you're going to be moving into, and if that's where you want to be. All right, number 4, curriculum. This is something that has changed over the past couple of years. There are more schools now with different styles of curriculum, and some might fit your personalities better than others. I am currently in a block system. And so we focus really, really hard on one subject for 2 to 3 weeks. We take a test on that subject and we move on to the next subject. A lot of schools have really heavy didactics the first 1 to 2 years, and then really heavy clinicals your 3rd and 4th year. That's something that's different about the school that I chose, which is Roseman. The school focuses on providing you an equal level of didactics and clinical time throughout the entirety of your college career here. Your first year, you are mostly taking some didactics and you're in sim, so you're working on robots or mannequins or whatever in the sim lab. And then your second year and third year, you are split with real people in the clinic 50-50. Okay, half the day you're in the clinic, you're working as a typical doctor or a secondary provider, you're doing procedures or you're helping with procedures, and then the other half of the day, you're doing didactic classes, right? You're doing your biochem, you're doing your physiology, you're doing your perio, so all those classes you're learning on top of your actual clinical working hours. The curriculum here is just something that totally made sense to me. I would much rather spend 4 to 6 hours a day on one single subject for 2 weeks, make sure I really know that material, and then just review it periodically until I get to boards. There's another dental school here where they have 4, 5, 6 classes that they're taking at a time, and it's school all day long. They have to study for all those classes all day long after school, and they have to dedicate equal amounts of time to studying for each of those classes because they're all equally important. Where for me, if I'm taking one class at a time, I have to study for that class 1 to 2 hours afterwards every day, and I can pretty much retain all the information that I was able to do for that day. Where if I had to do that for 3 other classes, my day's just swamped, right? I'm totally toasted with the amount of time that I'd have to study, and I just know that that's not me. I wouldn't be able to do that for a long period of time. And so the curriculum is a pretty important thing when you're establishing, okay, these are the classes we're going to take, when we're going to take them, and how much clinic time is actually put into my learning here at the school. And so clinic for me, I'm going to be patient-centered care. I really want to focus on the person, establish a relationship with my patients, and then be able to help them to the best of my abilities. That's really important to me. People want to be taken care of. They want the attention that they feel that they deserve. And if I don't have the skills to do that, I'm gonna lose business. And I know that that's important. For me, the curriculum here helps to emphasize my goals and to support the goals that I have for my business in the future, which is to be able to provide good dentistry. Fifth and final consideration when choosing a dental school should be your personality. And this really can be thrown into any decision in life. If you're gonna move somewhere or make a big change in your life, you really should consider the type of person that you are, the type of people that you're going to be with, and if your personalities are going to mesh. We all have similar interests. We all really like to be either outdoors, or we like to watch the same kind of movies, or we're interested in the same type of entertainment, and we have the same values. And that's something that's really important, because if my personality doesn't mesh well with my colleagues in a business or in school or any other venture, it's just not going to be fun. And if you're not having a good time and you can't be happy at what you're doing, then why do it? So the number 5 thing is definitely look at your personality, right? Are you going to be a happy, friendly person and you want to be around other happy, friendly people? Are you a competitive person and you want to be around other competitive people? Or are you kind of an introvert and you kind of want to just stick to books, get knowledge on all of the things that you could be improving on and not necessarily work with people? Or are you a people person and you really want to make that connection and relationship with people? There's a lot of different personalities out there, and dentistry can fulfill all of those personalities just in different ways, and schools know that, and so they try to provide what they feel like is going to represent the best doctor for them and their vision. Schools really have that down packed, right? We want to produce this kind of doctor, this kind of person, this is the kind of education we want to provide, and make sure that your personality fits what they're able to provide for you. There's no point in taking any classes or schooling that you just don't feel like connects with you. And I see posts about this all the time. Should I go to this school or should I go to this school? And always the number one thing that all the responses say, usually even the original poster put up there as well, is how expensive is it, right? That's the number one thing. You are going to have to pay this back over a long period of time, and although you're going to make good money, a lot of people handle the stresses of debt differently. And so how expensive is it gonna be? The number 2 thing that I always see out there as well is, okay, well, where is it located, right? Are you gonna have family nearby? Do you need that support system? So 1 and 2 are pretty high up on the list. The third thing I never really see people respond about is the culture of the school, and if their values and the culture that they are trying to instill in their student and body aligns with yours. Well, that's it for me, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, hit that like button down below. I'm coming out with videos hopefully twice a week, and we can try to keep a schedule going. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.